Hi, good evening, and welcome to the ninth edition of Highbury Matters. Tonight, I've got a very special guest. Oh, I've got another guest there, Richard. Huh? I've got a very special guest, Jon Spurling, who's written some fantastic books, especially about the Arsenal. Any minute now, he'll be on, but let's go. Good evening, Jon.
Hi, Melvyn. How are you?
Yeah, good. Thanks for joining us.
No worries.
I mean, I've obviously read this one. This one's been brilliant. I had it for years. I think about 2006 was it, or 2005?
Yeah, I think that's 16 years old now.
Bloody hell! I read it. I mean, it's fantastic. I mean, it really gets into the nitty gritty of Highbury, and really, it's perhaps it was at the back of my mind that inspired me to do something like this, because I do believe that Highbury, for me, and so many other people, obviously like yourself, was special. I mean, we're biased, Jon. Let's face it, we are biased, but it doesn't mean because we're biased we're wrong. And I think it's the special feeling of the ground and everything that it encompasses. Now then, I've got to ask a couple of questions. Obviously, when did you first start supporting Arsenal? And a question I do ask myself sometimes when things aren't going too well: why?
I'm from Hertfordshire originally. I'm just going to change chair a minute. So I'm from Hertfordshire originally, and everyone in my school supported Tottenham or West Ham actually, and I mean everyone in my primary school. So I thought I'd be different and support Arsenal because I've always been quite stubborn and always been quite awkward. There's no family connection with Arsenal. I just took it off my own back. I remember watching a game. I think it must have been about obviously mid-70s, and my mum always said I straight away took to the classic red and white kit. So I've supported them ever since I can remember. So there were some kids in my school even supported Forest because they were on a bit of an upward curve at the time with Clough and the Cup and everything else. So you had some kids in Forest retro or Forest kits when I was a kid, but always Arsenal for me, definitely.
And so, did you go by yourself to the games?
No, my dad took me.
You talked him in?
I talked him into it. My first game was actually the Villa game in 1980 at Highbury, 81 at Highbury, I should say, where Arsenal qualified for the UEFA Cup and Villa won the league. The one in 81 where we beat them 2-0, but Villa won the league on the day. And there were about 20,000 Villa fans in the clock end called the Transistor Match, all listening to Ipswich losing to Borough at the time, so they won the league. And I said to my dad, blimey, is it like this every game at Arsenal? And he said, I don't think so. No, it was like a 58,000 crowd that day. It was amazing, but I was hooked from the start.
I went to that game, and also that was I read actually you mentioned that in your book, don't you? Obviously that game you would do. And I read about that. I remember that. It's one of the things I do, loads of things remember, but that most certainly. I was at that game. I wasn't in my normal place. I was sitting by myself. There was a muck up with tickets or something, I don't know. But what I did remember is I felt it was beautiful to see Pele, which is quite ironic at the moment. Pele come on the pitch, and the Arsenal fans spontaneously just sign him up.
Yeah.
Sign him up.
It was a day we announced.
So good.
Yeah, it was a day we announced our sponsorship with JVC. It was a big day, and I remember in the program they had Willie Young and was it David O'Leary playing with the Atari game as well. It was the day we entered the late 21st century, definitely.
Yeah, no, that was a brilliant game. Yeah, I mean it was a weird because both sets of fans were very happy.
Yeah, that's right.
We finished off the season winning, and they've won the league.
Yeah, I mean, and the Villa fans invaded the pitch at the end, didn't they? Yeah.
Now then, you must have loads of memories, but the first question I want to ask you is what specifically did going to Highbury mean to you? Was it just going to another game, or was it something special? I imagine it's something special.
Yeah, it was always something special. I mean, it's like it's hard to put your finger on what Highbury meant, but I think like many old grounds like West Ham with Upton Park, and even Tottenham with White Hart Lane, the fact is that the ground was in the middle, the stadium was in the middle of the community. And when you're in one of the stands, you could see the trees, you could see the clouds, you could hear the traffic outside. Unlike, say, the Emirates or other modern stadia, where you're very much kind of cocooned away from it. It was open, and it was in the community. And I very quickly became aware of the fact that the East and the West stands has so much history, surrounding them, with the Art Deco, with Herbert Chapman's bust in there as well. Because we used to get tickets, me and my dad, in the week before the games, and we used to go in. And I said to my dad, I was only a young kid, who's that? And he said, that's Herbert Chapman. So I started reading about Arsenal then, and understanding that the history was really ingrained in the stadium. I was always, once I stopped going with my dad stopped going as quickly as he could. I started going with my friends. I was always on the North Bank, to the right hand side of it, always standing in front of the crush barrier. I got taught never stand behind it, because if someone pushes you down, you get pushed against it. So I was in front of it, but always at the front and the lower bit. And I was lucky enough to go to the last two kind of major terrace experiences at Highbury, where we played Man U. You might remember in the 87 FA Cup, we beat them 2-1. Brian McClare missed that last minute.
That's where the punch-up started for the next game, didn't it?
Yeah, between Brian McClare and Nigel Winterburn. It
kind of all started.
And then the Everton game in the League Cup, I think it was a couple of weeks later, which was another huge crowd, plus 50,000 crowds. And they were the last kind of big games where the terraces were absolutely full, because of Hillsborough, they then cut back on the capacity slightly on the terracing, and then the terraces went. So it was a certain time in football history.
Would you say then, really, for Highbury, because we're talking about Highbury, they're your favourite matches, or there's other matches that you can just go, wow, these matches meant so much to me for different reasons? I mean, they were very big because it was the last couple of big games you went to. But are there other matches that stick out?
Yeah, I think so. I think that for me, my favourite game that I ever went to was at Highbury, Arsenal-Everton, where we beat them 4-0 to win the league. To actually, because I wasn't there in '53 when Arsenal won against Burnley and won the league in front of their fans, but I was there in '98. With my wife, who doesn't remember going actually now. Imagine. To be in front. I said to my wife, "What's Tony Adams doing there?" Just before he blasted in that fourth goal. And I think it's just a beautiful May Day bank holiday, wasn't it?
Yes.
4-0, winning the league in front of your own fans. What could be better? So for me, that's my favourite match anywhere, not just at Highbury, but that's my favourite Arsenal experience.
I believe it was that match, John, that the guy from Fever Pitch, who was the main actor in it, what's his name?
Colin Firth?
Yeah, he sat in front of us that game.
Oh, did he?
Yeah, and that was before anyone had all these selfies. I would have definitely had a selfie with him.
Yeah,
certainly. I think somebody did actually phone up somebody and he spoke to them on the phone, but everything was so surreal that day, wasn't it?
Yeah. Didn't really do selfies in '98, did we?
No. But I would have definitely done one. Or he might have wanted to do one with me, John. You don't know, do you, really?
That's right. I do, but I still enjoy. I get as much of a kick going to Arsenal now as I ever did. I think that there are pros and cons to the Emirates, but I think the good thing is that for many people who still go from Highbury days, their match day experience can stay the same. Many of the pubs, not all, are still there. It's still in the area. And I think for a while, when there was talk of Arsenal moving out, I think that would have been a disaster. But I think they've just about managed to cling on to the match day experience. Certainly for me, I can't speak obviously for everyone, but I still enjoy going as much now as I ever did.
I agree, but you did actually mention in the book, though, you were very and you were correct at the time. I think it's changed a bit now. Obviously, the last two seasons, you were quite critical of the way people watched football to start with at the Emirates. People, I know, I can only talk from experience. When I first went to the Emirates, people never used to come. Sometimes even before kickoff. Same people used to go for whatever, a drink or whatever, before half time, get back after half time and leave before the end. What do they bother for? I think they were there for going through the motions, if you like, John. Some, not all of them, some, especially where I was sitting. And I thought, I used to go with my uncle. That's the reason I support the Arsenal. I'm an uncle of mine. And I used to sit and we look at each other. What the hell? They're on their phone. They're chatting about it. No, aren't you here to watch the game? All right. You might have to go a bit early sometimes as things happen. But for me, I always said to people, it was like people sometimes, tourists, to say, you know what? When I go to London, I used to go to the theatre. Brilliant. I went to the theatre. What did you see? That changed to, I went to the Emirates, watch a football game.
Yeah.
Not, just to be there. Yeah. Don't quite get it, but they want to be part of it, but they still don't get it. And that was very, very, very strange, I thought. But it's changed now. The whole, I must admit, the atmosphere has changed and things are much, much better for obvious reasons.
Definitely. I think that I noticed when the crowds returned properly after lockdown, at the start of last season, Arsenal didn't make a great start to the season. We lost our first 3 games, but I noticed there was a real passion amongst fans just to simply be watching live football again. And obviously now, because the team has started this season so well, I think there's a real change in atmosphere and positivity. But I think, in the period after Arsenal left Highbury and went to the Emirates, football was becoming more gentrified anyway in terms of people watching it. I think you could see that at the Emirates as well, and I guess it coincided with the team not doing as well either. They're doing well, but not the heights they were, say, at the end at Highbury. So all of that comes into it, doesn't it?
Of course it does. It all makes up. But I feel that we're going back when the COVID happened. We all missed it, and I made a pledge. But what I used to get there half hour before kickoff and leave as the final whistle went. I don't do that anymore. I get there at least an hour, sometimes 2 before the game. So I might be meeting friends.
I'm not
agreeing with Jon, but I might go to the pub and be with them, have a chat, chinwag. And then I wait until the teams go out, get off the pitch, just to get the whole atmosphere and go, because I missed that. And I didn't realise how much I missed it until it was nothing. So I've changed over the last couple of years, most certainly what I do.
Yeah, good. Yeah, I think a lot of people have. Yeah.
When you first started watching the Arsenal, Jon, who was your favourite player? Not best player, because sometimes the best player isn't the favourite player.
No, Frank Stapleton. Much though it pains me to admit, given that he walked out on Arsenal and went to Man United, but Frank Stapleton. I don't know what it was about him. I don't know what it was about him at all. But
he was good, wasn't he?
He was an excellent striker. I liked Stapleton. I liked Brady, but Stapleton was always the person that I pretended to be. Not very successfully in the playground at Sheridan's Junior School in Hoddesdon. That was the one that I always pretended to be. I also really like David Price, a very underrated midfielder who actually set up the first goal in the '79 FA Cup final. Amazing. Right. Sometimes the players you like are not always, like you say, the most the obvious ones.
It's true. It's true. I mean, David Price was if you like, he was the person that we had a very good team then. But he was the person you thought, we need an upgrade on that. Perhaps we didn't, Jon. I don't know. But in my mind, I always thought we did. Yeah. And perhaps I'm being unkind, but there's always something in your team you think you can improve it.
That's right. I liked his work ethic. I didn't have quite such a critical eye, I guess, when I was 9 or 10. But I liked his work, and I liked the goal he set up for, the Talbot Sunderland goal in the '79 Cup final. Yeah,
we've seen the score double goals, don't we? Who scored the goal out of that one? We had the one in '71 with George Graham and Eddie Kelly.
That's right. Alan Sunderland said to me that in the '79 final, he says that Talbot and him pretty much kicked that ball simultaneously. It's even now, it's hard to call who actually touched that ball. In '71, it was, as we saw from the replay, it was most definitely, but definitely Eddie Kelly's goal, not George's goal.
And also, talking about the final, it's more important who scored the third one, and no one can take that away from Sunderland, can they?
That's right, absolutely right.
I mean, that was, oh my God, that was at that game, and I just the emotion within 2 minutes of being high, low, and then high again.
Yeah,
the roller coaster. The last few minutes of that game, it was. I think it's true to say that had we not scored then and it gone to extra time, they would have beaten us.
Yeah, I think we were almost out on our feet. I mean, that was my first FA Cup final I really remember. And it's kind of like welcome to supporting Arsenal, isn't it? You think you got the job done, then you haven't, and then we are able to just snatch it at the death. It was amazing. For me, it's still the Arsenal match actually. In terms of what Arsenal, the drama that surrounds Arsenal, often of our own making as well.
like I've always said, it's not easy being an Arsenal supporter.
That's right. But we are lucky to have seen so many winning teams over the years, and hopefully that's on its way back now in terms of trophies.
So when you first went to Highbury, were you one of the guys that wore a hat, or you wouldn't be a rattle because that was way later, you're too young for that, but a hat, as I say, a rosette? Did you buy peanuts, hamburgers outside, or that wasn't for you?
I had a homemade rosette that my mum made me. So she made me a rosette with "Gunners are the best" on a bit of cardboard. I had a rosette with red and yellow ribbons on. I think she was hedging her bets there. I think it might have been red, yellow, and blue, in terms of home kit and away kit at the time on it. So I had a rosette, and I also had a scarf as well, just with, I think, just Arsenal Gunners on it, which I actually mislaid a few years back. I don't know where it is now. I do still wear a scarf actually to games, but not a rosette anymore.
No, those rosettes, I used to get them on my father before I went to Highbury. Before I was allowed to go, my father used to come home every week every other week from a game, as it was only every other week, the home games, not like we have now, and buy me a little star with an Arsenal player in the middle with his photograph. And I stick them on the rosette he bought me at the beginning of the season. But after about 10 badges, it just collapsed. So I learned very quickly, get up to about 8 or 9 and leave it like that, Melvyn. Are you still, I mean, you say you used to go with your father. Did you ever go with friends to Highbury, though?
Yeah, I do. I mean, I sometimes go with my daughter, Phoebe. She
lovely.
Comes with me. I go with my mate Brendan most of the time, though. He's an Arsenal fan as well. So, yeah, I do. It's part of the match day experience. I always go to the Trevi. I don't know if you know the Trevi restaurant. It's right opposite Highbury and Islington. It's a really lovely Italian restaurant run by a Turkish family, actually. But we've been going there for about 15 years now. So
do you have to get there very early, though, John, or they know you, so you always get in?
Yeah, I get there nice and early. So I try, if it on the rare occasions it's the 3 o'clock kickoff, try and get to Trevi for 12 o'clock.
Yeah.
A couple of beers.
That's a nice day, isn't it, then? It's a nice day.
It's nice to be able to relax. Yeah. But try and go to Trevi as often as I can. It's been difficult this season because of rail strikes, I'll be honest with you. I haven't been as much as I wanted to games either, because I don't know if Mick Lynch is a Tottenham fan, but they often seem to fall on the day of Arsenal matches moving forward. So I hope they can be resolved quite quickly.
Yes, yeah. Where did you used to sit, or when it was all set, where did you sit at Highbury? Or where did you start? You said you started off at the North Bank.
Yeah. So
how did you progress from there?
I was east stand lower when I used to go with my dad. There was often a pillar in the way, and instead of a restricted view, there was all of that.
Yeah.
And then so by about about 86, 87, I'd gone to the North Bank. So as I say, bottom sort of right area there, just about under the roof in case it rained. But that's where I was. And then obviously in the 92-93 season, after North Bank had been pulled down, I stood at the clock end as well, because that was the last terracing. Do you remember the North Bank was shut? And then at the clock end. So I stood there for a season. And then I moved to the new North Bank stand.
Oh, lovely.
Upper or lower tier, wherever I could get a ticket. Yeah.
I mean, did you ever, when we used to be East Stand. So we all the time East Stand. So we congregated, my uncles, my father, and friends outside the East Stand where the players came out.
Right.
We always, and years ago, John, players would mix, not like today. They would mix with the fans. Would come out, would give a little envelope to someone if someone needed a couple of tickets that they knew a friend of theirs, or they'd have a little chat and find out, this one's playing today, that one. There's no internet, obviously.
Yeah.
I don't even think William Press was about then. No, but it was very word of mouth about who was. You very rarely saw anything in the newspaper about team change because it was a lot of it was last minute because players had to play under even when they were injured to a degree, and it was like the last minute. Can we take a chance with him? Not like it is today. We've got bigger squads and they don't take the chance so much. So I used to love it seeing players come out and it's like a young kid. My jaw would drop like, oh my God, it's Jon Samuels coming over here and all things like that. But that for me was part of going to Highbury, and it had great memories. And same as you, John, it's that the Marble Halls. I used to go in there and collect tickets.
Yeah.
You might be in there midweek, school holidays. My uncle would send me up there to get some tickets for the Saturday game. It was all in, it was booked from a player or whatever.
Yeah.
And I'd be there as I'm going in to ask for the tickets. I'd have my right shoulder and there might be a player walking past.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
It was unbelievable.
Yeah. I mean, on Saturday, the photo you've got up of the stand there. I mean, you would see players, ex-players coming in and out, and it was easy to get autographs, and you would see because you'd have the TV, the TV people going in as well. So if you had the time, you could, you could see a few celebs going in and out, couldn't you?
You could. It was terrific. It made the whole thing. I mean, listen, it's all about memories, isn't it? With Highbury for me, and for you and so many other people. It's about memories, and that's what really gets it going. When I'd love people that never been to Highbury, that go to Arsenal, just to try and take a little bit in to see what we had, because as you say, it was so special.
Yeah, so special. Every so often I do a circuit where I walk around what was Highbury. Because obviously the two stands are there converted to flats, so I occasionally walk around it, and you can still feel what it once was. And there's lots of people who do that actually. They just stand and look at the east or west stands, get photo or whatever else. And I don't do it often because I've moved on, but I know that it's a very special place for a lot of people.
I used to. I mean, we were East Upper, and what was fantastic then at half time, or even just before the game, you could actually go into the a bar there, if you like, and get hot food, decent hot food, or a tea, or whatever you want, drinks. You didn't have to queue for what seems an eternity like today. Yeah. And therefore, you didn't miss any of the game. I used to go sometimes straight from work.
Yeah.
So I got there straight from work, so I might get there half hour before the game, and I'd go in the bar, have something to eat, and if I'd missed it, half time, come in again and do it then. It was just great. It was just, as I say, it was the whole experience, the Highbury experience. Do you remember turning up for a game late? You ever been late?
Yeah. Usually because of trains, because at the end at Highbury was coming up from Canterbury. And it was before they had the fast service. The trains often weren't very good. So, occasionally was late. We're late to games, Yeah,
I remember one game in particular I was late. There's not been too many, but one, and I missed the goal. It was the game home to Manchester United when we beat them 3-2 in the double year, when Anelka scored that amazing goal.
Yeah.
I missed that goal.
David Platt got the winner, yeah.
That's it. I watched my son play football in the morning, and it was only 4 stops to Finsbury Park where we were, so that's lovely. Got in the car, got on the train, going towards the ground. I went, left the tickets in the car.
Yeah.
So, I wasn't too upset. I didn't mind missing a goal as long as we scored it. So
that's right.
But things have changed football-wise. Obviously, there was hardly any ladies' toilets around years ago at Highbury.
Yeah,
they weren't. Not being funny, not a lot of women went to football.
Yeah,
did they?
No, that's right.
There was, apart from I think cup games, you couldn't get into the ground with a ticket. Only if the seats, there was like reserve seats or ordinary seats without numbers you can get in. But other than that, you had to queue up because it was all standing. You didn't have pre-tickets for that. The only game I do remember was the League Cup game against Spurs semi-final, home and away. We had to get tickets just to stand because obviously it's going to be unbelievable to try and get in. Yeah. So that was different. So nowadays, people go to the game. 99% of people go to the game. They know they're going to get in, don't they? Because they got the ticket. Years ago, you weren't sure. I mean, we're going home to Coventry with all due respect. We're going to get in, John, aren't we? But if it's Spurs, Man United, or something like that, then you have to plan it to make sure you get in.
Yeah.
Also, I used to love Christmas games, the
Yeah.
Boxing Day and Christmas games. That was fantastic, wasn't it, years ago?
Cigarette and cigar smoke at Christmas.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not a smoker, but if ever I walk past someone and they are smoking, I'll go, reminds me of Highbury, and obviously there's the cigar smoke at Christmas games because people got them for presents, and
Yeah,
the
that's
occasional
right.
pipe as well. When I started going with the old guys there smoking their pipes, it's
Yeah,
amazing how the smells takes you back, or if I'm ever out and about and there's a burger stall as well. It reminds, I don't know why, it reminds me of Highbury, because burgers were fried in a lot of places, but it always reminds me of Highbury when you smell the fried onions.
Well, it's funny you say that, because when I started going to Highbury in the mid-60s, right? And I remember they used to do hamburgers and hot dogs, but they never used to fry them, John. They used to steam them in hot water, boil them.
Yeah.
And when they opened the tops of the lids open, when the guy first got there, you smelt the onions, and it wasn't the greatest of smells. If you walk past at the wrong time, and as he opened it, it was like, wow. And when you see a wet burger come out of the hot water, it did put you off. So I didn't actually go for too much of that. Also, just going back to a couple of things that were different then, not just Highbury, obviously every game then, it was only a 10-minute half-time interval, no matter what happened.
10 minutes. Yeah, that's
right.
That
was it. 10 minutes, and they had to come, and you knew that, let me get this right, 45 quarter to, you knew that, was it 25 past? No, 10 to 5, 22, I think it was, 22, the game would end. It might be a minute's different, but at 4:40, the final whistle would go. It might be a minute, it might be 2 minutes, but never 6, 7, 8, 9 minutes.
I think evening kickoffs were 7:30 as well, weren't they?
They were 7:30, John.
Yeah.
They were 7:30,
Yeah, that's right.
But what they do now is, obviously, if they got another 3 minutes injury time in the first half, that's the teams come out later for the second half, so it all goes 3 minutes plus the extra injury time. And you never used to get that.
No, that's right.
They kicked off the second half at, say, 5-4, no matter what.
Yeah.
And then that, it was because obviously there's no TV. You don't have to wait for the TV to go, you're ready now, the adverts are finished, we've got to get them in, we've got them done, and now off we go. But that was different. Also, we used to play FA Cup ties until, I'm going to talk about it later, until one of the teams dropped dead, really, didn't it?
Yeah,
it was never, that was it.
Yeah.
Right, what else have we got here? I mean, obviously, I don't think you're too young to have seen the Metropolitan Band, aren't you?
I don't remember them.
No, it was probably.
I remember marching bands at FA Cup finals, but I don't ever recall seeing them at Highbury. No.
Yeah. Also,
I did. No, they were there at half time, weren't they?
Yeah, half time. Yeah. And sometimes you had the Alex Morgan singing.
I shot off to get a drink normally, so I didn't see it, but they were there. Yeah.
But also, this is probably before your time, but before undersaw heating, they used to have orange balls because it was frosty, the surface, and it was like white. So instead of using white footballs, they used to go orange ones.
Yeah.
Obviously, nowadays everyone's got undersaw heating. Right, now I'm going to go. Now we're going to talk about a couple of seasons here, John. The 78-9 season and the 79-80 season.
Yeah.
We came 7th in the league, which for us about then wasn't too bad. But we had a decent team. We couldn't quite do it in the league, could we?
No, that's right. Didn't have the depth of squad.
No. And when we didn't expect any better, really, it was like, 7th, we'll have that. It wasn't. Listen, we knew we weren't going to win it, so we weren't that bothered about coming 2nd, 3rd, 4th, or 5th, or 6th on the basis that there was no qualification for Europe in the big league. There was it. So not like it is today. Everyone wants to be in the top 4 for a reason.
Yeah.
So the pressure was off then, but we did, as we say, win the FA Cup, and that was amazing, absolutely amazing.
That's right. Arsenal squad in 78, 79. There was so much that was right about Arsenal at that time, in the sense that many of the players had come through the youth team. So, you had the London Irish, you had Stapleton, Brady, O'Leary, You had John Devine, there was Pat Rice, there was Sammy Nelson, there was Pat Jennings, and obviously Terry Neal himself was Northern Irish. So you had eight Irishmen there. But you also had, as we said earlier, you know, David Price had come through the youth team as well. So and Graham Ricks, of course, as well. So I think Arsenal teams are always loved by Arsenal fans when the majority or the bulk of the team come through the ranks. It's like you could see now with Smith Rowe and Saka. They're very, very popular because they're ours, aren't they? They're
yes, exactly.
And obviously in Liam Brady, you know, magician with his amazing left foot, he was amazing player. And they were a great creative team, but I think the thing is that, as Terry Neal said, the squad wasn't there. There were always 2 or 3 players short, because when they got injuries, when there was a fixture pile up, you know, players just played in those days. There wasn't the squad rotation. But Liverpool, say, always had another couple of players who could come in if needed. You know, so that's probably where we fell slightly short, I think. But I think those cup runs were amazing, and they belong to a bygone age because of the replays.
Oh, fantastic! We talk about those. The replays. I mean, well, the good thing about replays, a lot of the replays, I think most of them were midweek, evening matches, and that brings the atmosphere even higher, doesn't it?
That's right. That's right. Yeah. I mean, you had 2 that stick out. Obviously, the marathon was Sheffield Wednesday of the 3rd division, managed by Jack Charlton, which went right through that winter freeze, because the winter of 78, 79, it was, you know, the winter of discontent. There were frozen pitches, orange balls, like you said earlier. We had that. And then the following season, 79, 80, you had the 4-match marathon with Liverpool in the FA Cup semi-final as well. So, you know, it is a different era, but memorable for that, I think.
Someone's just asked here, evening chat, did you go from the schoolboys enclosure to North Bank? I did, actually. I started off in the schoolboys enclosure. That was Lower East as well, if you remember, John.
Yeah, I do remember that, but I didn't go in there, no.
Yeah, I remember that. That was my... I think, first of all, I used to go with my father and uncle. They used to jib me in, get me over the turnstiles and sit with them, because I was obviously too young to go. But when I was about, I suppose, might have been about 11 or 12, then I used to go with them, and I used to go in the schoolboys enclosure a couple of years later, then go in the North Bank. And then a couple of years after that, when I was working, try and get my own ticket. But they helped me with that as well, so that was good.
Yeah.
Now I'm going to show you a couple of things here. We have spoken about a few games, but I'll talk about some of the games. As I say, we came 7th, we won the cup. And if unreserved seating, do you remember? You obviously don't remember. I don't remember. I looked it up. What unreserved seating would have cost at Highbury in those days on the 78-9 season?
No, how much? Well, I'll have a guess. Unreserved seating, 80p.
Not bad. I mean, you're a bit out, but I thought you'd be higher than that, higher or lower. No, it's £1.50.
Is it right? Okay.
That is unreserved seating. Now,
the
first, I'll tell you what I remember. I don't know if you were at this game or not. Perhaps you weren't, because I think you went a bit later. But the first game that season was at home to Leeds United.
Right.
They were a terrific team, Leeds.
Yeah.
And what is beautiful, first game of the season at home on a Saturday. Or it's going to be the first time. The first home game will be on a Tuesday. But that's how it would all turn up. Saturday, Tuesday on season. You knew exactly that if you played the first game at home on a Saturday, the next season, your first home game will be on the Tuesday after the league starts.
Right.
Anyway, it was 2-2. It was a beautifully, as it would be then, beautifully sunny day. The pitch was immaculate, which meant a lot in those days, because it was only immaculate up to about September or October.
Right.
So it really looked the business, right? You really went wow as you walked in the stadium for the first game of the season. And that's someone you mentioned, Liam Brady, got 2 goals. One spectacular goal.
Curled it round, didn't he?
That's it. That's it, John. It was. I think it got used on the beginning of. It might have been Match of the Day or the big match. You know, every week.
I think it was on the show. Big match. Yeah.
Fabulous. And one of my favourite players from not so much, you know, he played for Leeds, but he played for a few clubs. I thought he was different class. Was Tony Curry.
Yeah.
He scored a fabulous goal as well.
Yeah.
First game of the season, we had 42,000 people that game. And remember, that's standing. That's not fantastic. We could have held, was it 60 odd thousand then?
Yeah, 50. I think it was 58 in the late 70s.
Yeah, it might have been. Yeah, it could have been. Yeah. No, I'm not going to argue with you about Highbury, John. Is that all right?
Okay.
Right, good. Good. Long we got that one sorted. Now, I'll tell you who was sub that day. I don't know if he was used. I don't think he was used. And we come to him later as well. Cosmina.
Yeah.
He was an Australian guy, I believe.
Australian. That's it.
And he was the sub. Now, the thing I remember about Cosmina as well, I don't think he didn't make it with us, obviously. He didn't. But he was the first time I remember he came on in a midweek game against Huddersfield Split, I think it was, in a European game. Spares Cup or whatever it was called then, John. And he got brought on because we needed a goal. And guess what? He got taken off.
Yeah.
The first sub I saw, he wasn't injured, but he just, obviously, the manager looked, I think Terry Neal looked at him and go, no, I don't think so. I just don't think so. It's the first time I've ever seen that happen, actually.
Yeah.
Obviously, this season as well, I know it's not Highbury, but we're going to talk about it because it was dear to all our hearts. We won away at Spurs 5-0.
Yeah, that's right.
That season. And you know what? I missed the game. I wasn't even in the country. I don't know how that happened. I was actually flying at the time the game was on. And where am I going to find out how Arsenal did, right? I flew abroad, and I was in this type of sweet shop, and everything was in the local language, couldn't understand anything. But then it was not an English paper, but a paper written in English. Yeah. It said Sunderland 3.
Yeah.
So I thought, what on earth are they worried about Sunderland for in this country? I thought they meant the team. When I looked again, I went, Sunderland, Alan Sunderland. I went, yeah, I shouted out. I thought we were going to get chucked out the shop.
Yeah.
It suddenly hit me that we'd won. So that was a great one.
I mean, Alan Sunderland was an amazing player because in sort of bog standard games, he didn't always do that well. But if you put him against Tottenham,
we love Tottenham.
Or in an FA Cup semi-final, he was suddenly transformed. Or in an FA Cup final, he was a big game player. Was Alan Sunderland, and he was originally a midfielder, so he could move back or forwards. He was a really underrated player, but he was frustratingly inconsistent.
Very much so, and we actually, that was one of Terry Neal's best bargains, I reckon.
Yeah, he bought him from Wolves, didn't he?
Yeah, from Wolves, and one of the best. I mean, he was okay. He was under 23 international, I think, when we bought him.
Yeah,
I don't think we all suddenly put our party hats on and went, yeah, we bought Alan Sunderland. It was all right, we'll see how it goes. And he was great for us. He was all right. He wasn't consistent, but he did a very good job, and he was a good partner to McDonald, to Stapleton. You know, he played. I've got a lot of time for him.
And all those players say, you know, what an intelligent, underrated player. You know, he was. So yeah, no, Alan. I got a lot. Yeah, Alan Sunderland was a fantastic player.
One game that season that sticks in my mind is probably forgotten about, but we beat Spurs 1-0 at home that season.
Yeah,
and I saw this young centre half make his debut for Spurs. He was outstanding. I think he was about 19 years old. Do you know who the centre half was?
Centre half for
Spurs, made his debut. He marked Stapleton out the game for 85 minutes, but Stapleton nicked the winner 5 minutes to go.
No, I don't know who was that.
Paul Miller.
Oh, Paul Miller, yeah.
He was. I've never heard of this guy. He's just marking. I mean, Stapleton was a terrific player, as we know. And he just every time he just got the ball off in one headers, one tackles, was in the right place at the right time, was playing the ball out nicely. And we just, where'd they get this player from?
Yeah. There's no footage of that 1-0 win at Highbury. It was a late diving header from Stapleton. I don't think I've ever seen footage of it. I've seen a photo of it. He's a diving header that Stapleton gets to, but there's no actual footage, which is a shame. There's a lot of games in that era. There's some amazing Liam Brady, Malcolm McDonald goals, which we'll never see because the cameras weren't there at every game. But that's that's what happened, wasn't it?
Absolutely. I mean, it is a shame, really. But listen, there's a lot we can get, so we've got to be thankful for that. Exactly. But you're right. There's so much we can't get. Going back to what you said before, we played Sheffield Wednesday 5 times. It was in the 3rd round of the Cup. And this is how, I think Filbert Street was where we finally beat them.
Yeah, that's right.
This is for the 1, 2, 3, yeah, 5. I've got all the attendances here. Look how they change. 33,000. I think that was the home game. No, away game. Sorry, 33,000.
That's at Hillsborough. At Hillsborough.
Hillsborough.
Yeah.
38,000 at Highbury. Then the next two, I can't remember what grounds they were. 25,000, John. Went down to 17,000.
Yeah. Yeah.
Then Filbert Street went back up to 30,000.
Yeah, but that's partly the freezing weather, because I think the game
right.
in front of me here somewhere. I've got the wrong glasses on. Where are we? The third one's at Leicester. Leicester. So yeah, the final three are all at Leicester, all at Filbert Street.
Oh, so that makes sense.
Getting on the road in the freezing cold up to Leicester. For Sheffield Wednesday and for Arsenal, which would be difficult for different reasons, wouldn't it?
Yes, true. I remember going to the home one. Obviously, I went to the last one as well.
Yeah.
Right. Let's go on to the next season. This is the one of the biggest games at Highbury that season was Juventus at home in the European Cup semi-final.
Winners' Cup. Yeah.
Cup Winners' Cup, sorry, yes, Cup Winners' Cup, obviously, because we won the Cup the year before, Cup Winners' Cup. And in front of 52,000 fans, we were 1-0 down for a hell of a long time, I think, about 75, 80 minutes. They scored quite early on.
It's Cabrini.
And then
Cabrini, I think it was. Yeah.
That's it. I think we got an own goal. I think our goal was an own goal.
Yeah, it was Roberto Bettiga, because Bettiga was like the golden boy of Italian football, silver-haired striker.
Yes, that's it. Remember him.
He took out David O'Leary. He smashed right through his shin pad, and O'Leary got carried off.
I thought that was Tardelli. Wasn't it Tardelli who got sent off?
Bettiga, I don't think got sent off for it. He went for O'Leary's shin pad. And Terry Neal complained about Bettiga in the press.
Yes.
Played in Turin, a couple of weeks later for the return. The atmosphere. There was a banner up saying "Neal is a dog," and Terry Neal was telling me about it. He said they were baying for his blood and everything. Every time he stood up, they were jeering and whistling and throwing things at him. So the atmosphere surrounding the Juventus game was phenomenal, because the backbone of that Juventus team won the World Cup with Italy in '82. They were a great team, and Arsenal obviously beat them.
But the problem we had with beating them, I mean, what I thought was one of the biggest problem I saw in beating them was that the Italians saw how good Liam Brady was, and they bought him on that.
That's right. Exactly. I think they were after him anyway, because Brady had announced that he wouldn't be staying at Arsenal beyond the end of the season. But there were numerous clubs after him. And like you say, unfortunately, all it did was put him in this shop window, wasn't it? Yeah. To an even greater degree. But the scandal about that was the amount we got for him. £600,000 for Liam Brady. I mean, if ever a player in England at that time was worth $1 million, it was him. And we got 600,000. Like Frank Stapleton, 900,000. Again, Stapleton was easily £1 million player.
Why did we get that amount, John? How did we get that amount? Do you know how?
We went to a tribunal.
Exactly.
The old tribunals where clubs, Arsenal pitched for as much as they could get. The club that were buying tried to go for the lowest amount, and then it kind of meets in the middle.
They never met in the middle there, John.
No. I also think there was some rules around Italian football that I think Brady was their first foreign player coming in for a long time. I think they shut the doors on foreign players. That might have affected his fee as well.
But I tell you something, when we sold Stapleton for Man United for £900,000, as you say, that wasn't a good fee for us. He was going to go anyway, let's face it. His heart wasn't in it after that. No. His head had been turned. But what made me upset at the time, I knew how great he was. He was a great player.
Yeah.
But he went to a tribunal, which is up north, funnily enough.
Yeah.
We got the short straw, if you like, on time on price. But once they signed him, Ron Atkinson said, "We've just got a bargain." Yeah. I thought that was uncalled for.
That's right.
Sorting the wounds.
That's right. It was a fantastic bit of business for Man U, because I mean they were spending a lot of money all the time. They bought Brian Robson and Remy Moses as well, and Ray Wilkins. And that's the thing that United were willing to spend the sort of money that Arsenal would never countenance at the time. And you know, it was very disappointing, because I think that the team around that era, had they had another couple of great players, could really have pushed for the league, but they didn't. The ironic thing is, though, isn't it, that, you know, David O'Leary stayed, whereas Brady and Stapleton left.
Yes.
But O'Leary's the one who did end up with a league winners medal in England, which neither Brady nor Stapleton got. So sometimes I guess the best things come to those who wait. Although, you know, Brady won the Scudetto with Juventus, didn't he? But it was a disappointing time to lose our two best players.
Yeah, most certainly.
Yeah.
Going back to the semi-final, we won the semi-final 1-0 in Turin, which we weren't fancied at all. The Italians had a fantastic team.
Yeah.
And at home, they were practically unbeatable. And this is the gentleman who scored the winner, Paul Vasson.
Yeah. Yeah.
Shame with him. He didn't quite make it at Arsenal, and he was unlucky. He passed away at a very young age.
He did. I mean, the night. I don't think Juventus knew what to do, because obviously we drew 1-1 at Highbury in the era of away goals. So Juventus just needed to keep the score at that, and they'd have progressed. But Arsenal wouldn't stop kind of pushing, but they still needed another goal. So sort of Terry Neal threw on Vasson and just told him to use his muscularity and use his height. You know, nothing too complex or anything like that. And it was a superb cross from Graham Ricks, and Vasson.
Oh, that's right. Beautiful. Down the left cross.
Yeah. And as soon as that goal went in, the whole stadium went absolutely silent. There wasn't a peep in there, because it was so near the end, because Juventus were out on their feet.
That's the home program I've got. That's the teams. I don't know if you can see that, John. That's the home.
Yeah. I mean, you look at those players: Zoff, Gentile, Cabrini, Sciarra, Causio, Tardelli. I think Bettega was injured in '82. So you've got 5-6 players that won the World Cup with Italy. That's how good Juventus were, and Arsenal. But I don't think they'd ever lost to a British club in Europe before Arsenal came to town.
We do break those records, don't we, John? We've got to have it.
Yeah. That's right.
Now then, do you know? I don't know if you can see that's a goal there. I don't know if you know. You don't read it. I'm trying to test you now. Yeah. What's the similarity or the connection between that goal and that goal?
Go back to that first one again.
The one at the top.
Top picture, yeah?
Yeah.
What's the connection? Oh, I don't know. You got me there. I don't know. What is the connection?
I didn't know until it fell on my lap, if you like. That is our first goal in the FA Cup of that season, scored by Alan Sunderland. And that's the last goal in the FA Cup, scored by Alan Sunderland that season.
Fair enough, yeah. That first one with the photo of Alan Sunderland scoring at Hillsborough. That was the game where Jennings got bombarded with snowballs, wasn't it? Because it was
I don't remember that. Did he? I don't remember that. God.
Yeah. Oh, that's good. Oh, I didn't know. Yeah.
I didn't know that until literally I'm going through the older programs looking for this season, and suddenly it says scoring the first goal in our
nice symmetry to those photos, isn't there?
Yes, very much so. Now what we got here, this is something we don't see nowadays, John, in the programs. It's tickets for away matches. As Kylie Minogue would sing, "You should be so lucky" nowadays. Away seats. Yeah. So, I mean, I can't see have I got the prices here? I might have them here. I've got a few of the programs here. I've got them. No. It's around somewhere. But there are a lot. But there were like two. Here we go. I have got them here. I'm telling lies again. Basically, Villa Park. The top seat is £3.20.
Yeah.
What's about Man United? Man United, has never been dear for seats. They were £2.70. They're dearer. Aston Villa dearer than Man United.
Is it Brighton? Was that £4.50? That's quite a lot of money in those days.
Oh my God, you've got good eyesight. Yeah, £4.50.
I actually got new glasses.
On the day of the match.
That's why I can actually see properly again. So £4.50. That's on the day of the match. Wow. Yeah.
Liverpool, what was that? That was cheap.
Southern club, weren't they, Brighton, at the time? Yeah.
£2.50. Was it Melia the manager then? Was he about then, the manager? Jimmy Melia? Was he the manager then?
Alan Mullery, then Jimmy Melia.
Alan Mullery, yes, of course he was.
Yeah. And Mike Bailey, I think, after him as well, at Brighton. Yeah.
I tell you, that was a shock, this one. Bristol City, £3.30.
Yeah.
Wow. So that's that. What else have we got here? Also in the programme, going through a few programmes here, John, before we carry on. This week's personality in the programme, every week there was a personality, not necessarily from the Arsenal, doing something, talking about the club they play for. Obviously, most of it was Arsenal or ex-Arsenal players or ex-managers we've had as well doing this.
Yeah.
So that was I mean, I don't think people read the programme nowadays like they used to years ago because all the information at your fingertips.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's still. I think the program still sells quite well. I think they've there's news, there's other articles in it now. But I don't. I think it's printed media doesn't sell as well as it did, magazines or newspapers, does it?
Yeah, true. Yeah. Now then, another game I went to, which was a freak game. You sometimes goes to game that you go, that's a freak, or I don't know what happened there. Was the 1979-80 Leeds League Cup at Highbury. Do you remember the score of that one?
7-0.
Correct.
Yeah.
Unbelievable. Yeah. I think Alan Sunderland scored a hat-trick, I think, that day.
I think he might have done, yeah.
And that is what's that? Is that the one? Oh, that's the inside cover. Voice of Arsenal. That's the Leeds game that we won, actually. Voice of Arsenal. Amazing. Loved it. Telling you all what's going on when you didn't used to know. This is what the programme looked like the season before the cover.
Yeah.
Graham Ricks. And that's Donahue of Man City, I think.
Yeah, I think it is, yeah.
Now, you can tell me this one, John. Your eyesight's better.
Because they used to have the same photo running for a few games. So I remember that.
That's it. They swapped them. That's it. League attendances. Can you see any of those and call them out?
Yeah, I can. Yeah, I can see those. I mean, that's the other thing in those days, that attendances fluctuated a lot more than they do now.
Yeah.
For the bigger games like North London Derby or Liverpool or Man United, they go to around 40, 50, but they could go, as low as early 20s, I think, although not on that one. I'm screwing my eyes up, having a look there. Yeah, sort of early. What have we got there? We've got so Bristol City, sort of 4th, 5th on the bottom there, 25,000. So yeah, if it depends, partly depends on the weather, I suppose, but also depends on how Arsenal are doing in the league generally, I think, at that time.
Yeah, that's
FA. What's interesting is, though, FA Cup attendances are always slightly higher, I think, whereas now for FA Cup attendances they'll often be substantially lower, which shows how the FA Cup isn't taken as serious as it used to be.
Well, it used to be. I mean, going back 60s, 70s, 80s, people can probably tell you who won the FA Cup quicker than who won the league that season.
Yeah, I'd imagine that's right. Yeah.
It was a big thing. The FA Cup was, for some reason, the number one football event of this country, not the league. The league was, they're a great team. Yeah, don't worry about that. Who won the cup? Oh, they're the cup winners. Brilliant.
I think it's because football was rarely televised in those days, and the FA Cup final was one of the few live televised games. So everybody watched it, and therefore everybody remembers it. Especially as there were only 3 channels in those days as well.
That's true. Yeah.
So it kind of narrows it down a bit, doesn't it?
Match of the Day wasn't even on BBC One when it first came out. It was on BBC Two.
That's right. Yeah.
First broadcast.
Yeah.
Now, that season as well, lower seats, they whacked the prices up, John. They took a liberty with the supporters, Arsenal. They whacked it up from £1.50 for a lower seat to £2.50.
Yeah.
If it's reserved, £3.50.
Yeah.
And also, that's the season we played Liverpool 4 times in the FA Cup semi-final.
Yeah.
That was brilliant as well.
Yeah. So, I mean, £2.50 to £3.50 back in those days is a big increase, isn't it?
Yeah. So that was good. Now then, I want to mention, Sharon, some of your books. I mean, amazing. I mean, the one I've got is superb. I recently moved premises about in April. We moved.
Yeah.
And I got all my books out, and I thought, where's this been all those years? Where has it been, and why hasn't it been closer to where I am? So I've got that. Now I've got a bookshelf put up, and that is there. But some of the other stuff you've done is top notch, isn't it? Top Guns Arsenal in the 1990s. You did All Guns Blazing. Rebels.
Yeah.
That's the 80s, isn't it? Is it?
Yeah, All Guns. That was my first book. All Guns in the 80s.
Oh, right. Didn't know that.
Yeah.
How the 70s rocked football.
Yeah, that's my most recent one. That's a general on football in the 70s. That one. Yeah, obviously did Highbury and then Rebels for the Cause as well.
What was Red Letter Days then? What was that then?
That
The myths
Red
and
Letter
conjecture.
got one here. That is a general sort of history of Arsenal. There's that one. I'm just holding it up now. So that's a general history of Arsenal. So it's was it 14 dramatic events that shook Arsenal with Arsenal history. So going right back to the 20s, that one goes. Yeah.
The guy Richard who runs this channel.
Yeah.
He's, I think, read most of your books, and he can't wait. I think there's one he needs to get for the set, and he can't wait. When I said you're coming, I go, oh my god, that's amazing. I've read most of these, but I just got to get this one. But I'll tell you which one is quite interesting that you've written. I want to get now because it's quite interesting, quite topical. Death or Glory: The Dark History of the World Cup, 2010.
Yeah, you can only get it available on Kindle now. I think it's sold out again because it sells quite a few around the world around World Cup time. But it's quite a political book, looking at the politics of the tournament. And as you say, it is topical given the World Cup's been held in Qatar this time, isn't it?
Yeah. Now what I normally do about this time, I go through a few things that happened around about the middle year, 78, 79, 80, 79. This is what happened in 79, right? Worldwide. China institutes the one child for family rule. I remember that. Do you remember that?
Sorry, you glitched. Say that again.
China initiates the one child for family rule.
Right.
China.
Yeah, I do remember that. Yeah.
And Trivial Pursuit was launched that year.
Right.
Makes us feel old, doesn't it, John?
Yeah, it does.
Another kind of topical, the USSR invades Afghanistan. That didn't work out too well for them, did it?
No.
Margaret Thatcher is elected Prime Minister in the winter of discontent. You're talking about the cold weather anyway. Winter of discontent.
Yeah. It was in May. That was just before the final, I think. Yeah.
Oh my God. Listen to this one. Sony released the Walkman.
Yeah.
That'd be an antique now, wouldn't it?
Yeah, that's right. It would be. If anyone's still got one.
Yeah. And also, I don't remember this. The Times newspaper is not published for nearly a year due to industrial dispute. Oh. Everything comes around in circles, doesn't it, John?
Yeah. Everything in circles. Exactly right.
What YMCA? Listen to this one. YMCA sues the village people for libel because of their song of the same name.
Yeah.
What else is it? The first modern bungee jumping was performed by a group from the Oxford University Dangerous Sports Club.
First bungee jump. Wow.
Yeah. And also the popular films then, if you were going to the cinema as it was then, Superman the movie was about.
Yeah.
Rocky 2.
Yeah.
Alien. Star Trek, the motion picture. Moonraker. God, this is the one I hated. I couldn't stand it. I watched it, but I didn't enjoy it through fingers. The Deer Hunter.
Right. That's about the war in Cambodia, isn't it?
Yes.
Like with Robert De Niro, isn't it? Yeah,
That's it.
I've seen that, but not for a while. Yeah.
Is that the one with the Russian roulette they play?
Yeah.
Oh, it's hot. I didn't like that at all.
Yeah.
Kramer versus Kramer.
Yeah.
Kramer versus Kramer, whatever you want to call it.
I remember that's Meryl Streep film.
That's it. That's it. These are the songs. Gloria Gaynor with I Will Survive was out then.
Yeah.
Blondie with Heart of Glass.
Yeah.
Donna Summer with Hot Stuff and Bad Girls. And there's a load more, but I'll just go to some popular TV programs now. Are You Being Served? That wouldn't be allowed. I mean, let's face it, 90% of programs made them wouldn't be allowed now anyway, John.
That's right. I used to enjoy Are You Being Served? I just like the soundtrack. Very, very unusual soundtrack for a comedy. A non Rodney Hazelhurst song, I think that was.
Also the Waltons.
Yeah.
Last of Summer Wine. Happy Days. You remember that? Happy Days, the American.
Yeah.
Little House on the Prairie. That's similar to the Waltons, wasn't it? That's similar.
Yeah.
Charlie's Angels. I watched that because of the acting. I thought was quite good in Charlie's Angels. Something I didn't watch, but I knew about then. I didn't watch it. Was Quincy M.E.
Yeah.
The Muppet Show. And the one that ran and got so famous over here, America, was Dallas.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right, now I'm going to tell you also I do what things cost then and now, inflation related, so it's geared up.
Right.
So, for example, a pint of beer in 1979 would have cost you all of 46p. Wow. If you put inflation into that, it would cost you £1.90 in those times. So what's a pint of beer now? 3-4 quid?
A bit more than that.
A bit more than that, so 4 or 5 quid.
Yeah.
Well, a packet of cigarettes then would cost you 67p, which with inflation then would cost you £2.80. It's now what, 6 quid? 6 quid, is it? I don't smoke. I think they're about 6 quid, 6, 7 quid.
I don't smoke either.
I
don't know.
Now then, this is the one you'll like. This is it. What do you think? All those years ago, I'm putting you on the spot here. I don't expect you to get close to it.
Right.
A 22-inch bush colour TV from Curry's cost.
Colour TV from Curry's.
Yeah, it's 22
so
inch.
You're buying it outright. You're not renting it. You're buying it.
Yeah, you're buying it. That's it. Yeah.
All right. I'll go. That's a good one. 95 quid.
Not bad. Not bad because you're not. I mean, not bad. Seriously, because I wouldn't have had a clue. I wouldn't know where to start. 260 quid.
Oh, blimey.
It's equivalent with inflation, £1,100. So that's basically you can buy colour TV now for probably 350 quid, couldn't you really? And a better one than what you got there, bigger and better.
Yeah.
All singing, all dancing, really.
Yeah.
Also, this is the one that obviously it's gone up and up like you can't believe it. An average house price. I don't know whether that's in the country, John, or London. I imagine it's in the country. Average house price in the UK. Must be.
So 79 we're talking. I'll go average house price. 40 grand.
Half that, 20 grand.
Is it? Right.
With inflation, it's 83,000. So look how that's changed.
Yeah.
And one more. We've got one more. Oh, this is a mad one. A Hot Point Super Electric Deluxe Automatic Washing Machine.
Okay, I'll go £110.
Okay, not bad. I mean, again, I would have been way out. I wouldn't have said that anything like that. £265.
Wow.
Because I suppose years
That's
ago you're paying
off what they cost now.
Exactly. Well, probably, yeah, exactly. And I suppose what you're doing with lots of things, John, you're paying for the invention to start with, aren't you?
Yeah.
I mean, I remember you used to get those Casio, was it watches?
Yeah.
You press the phone, and they were like £100 all those years ago, and now you probably get them with a packet of cornflakes free. You know? So right. That's so I don't know. It's amazing, you know. Just if we knew. Oh, one more. Sorry, I'm just going to. Which is, I think it's kind of in line. A Ford Cortina car in '79 would have cost you £3,500, which with inflation, it's 14,000. We haven't got a Ford Cortina, but I suppose it's 20,000 now. That type of car, would you say?
Yeah, probably. Yeah,
that's not that much, really, when you think about it.
Yeah.
Well, that was it. That was fantastic. I mean, normally when I get a guest on, I normally sometimes know a little bit more than them, or the same as them. But you've beaten me tonight, John. I'm not going to invite you on ever again. Sorry, you're finished. I'm going to get your name. I've got a big cross by it.
Yeah.
No, look. Thanks very, very much. I really, really enjoyed it.
Enjoyed coming on.
Enjoyed it. It's great to talk to someone about the same passion, and what knowledge you've got as well. It's great, and it's what this program's all about. Is getting those brain cells back to the years. What was going on?
Despite the cold weather. That's right. No, I've really, really enjoyed it, and you know, I look back on the late '70s. That's the kind of era that I started out with, so I've got a lot of fondness for it. You know, football's changed a lot since then, sometimes for the good, sometimes for the worse, but it's an era I look back on with great fondness.
Yeah. Well, thanks again, John, and I might see you at the Emirates one day.
Definitely.
Now I know what you look like. I'll probably stalk you. Right. Is that all right?
That's right. Likewise.
Thanks again, and I'm hopefully we'll meet up soon. All the best, John.
Cheers.
Thanks very much.
Melvyn. Cheers. Bye-bye.
Pleasure. Bye.
Thank you.